let's have a quick discussion about episode 7 of Danmachi season 3, because this was a really, really good episode. I criticized the last episode quite a bit for some of its failings in the art department. This one had a couple of tweens and things like that might have been a little wonky, but largely we're kind of back to the quality that I think we expect from this series. First things first, we come out of the gate with the fight between Belle and Dix. And man, this fight was intense because it actually overflows. Well, we'll get to that. So we come in, and as you know, in the last episode, Dix cursed about half of the Xenos, and now they're just fighting each other. They're just going full scale, all in, and this includes Lead. Like he was cursed, and he's fighting some of the rest of them. So that's going absolutely bonkers. And of course, after they basically like set this whole thing up, we get the intro, and then we're introduced to basically what's happening on the 18th floor. You know, the safe zone, quote unquote, where that the Xenos attacked. Well, the Xenos attacked the 18th floor. We knew that. And the Ganesha Familia, at this point, they're like, cool, we've got everybody. Like, we have subdued everybody on the 18th floor with the exception of this one random siren. And no, actually, it's not Ray. We'll see Ray a little bit later in the episode. This is literally just a random siren. You can kind of tell because of the way she's drawn. She obviously is very... Like, Ray has, like, more human characteristics about her. This one is probably someone that just has, you know, the... It's not the first siren we've seen, frankly, but probably just has, like, you know, is mentally capable of understanding, but probably not, you know, communicating or behaving in the same way Ray does. But so it's not Ray. This is literally just a random siren. But I don't know why they keep giving us like random sirens. I think they're just trying to mess with us at this point. Like, is it Ray? Nah, it ain't Ray. But I digress. As this whole thing's going on, all of a sudden Shakti goes flying. She just goes whoo, and there's like just a spray of blood from her mouth as she like hits a tree and hits the floor. This is what I'm talking about. This episode is brutal, and they just gotta leave it at that. Now, to be fair, there was a little that passed in front of her, and you probably saw it, so you know who it is. But then it goes back to the fight. It goes back to the fight in the makeshift dungeon. And of course, Belle and Dix are just going at it. They're trading blows. And as we learned in the last episode, Dix, when he does his curse, he is operating at a basically reduced rate. Now, Belle's only a level 3, Dix is a level 5. And in the last episode, he's like, bring it. But now, Belle's kind of holding his own. Now, Dix is probably fighting on the level of like a high-end level 3, because even he's like, antagonizing Belle. He's like, you're slow, what's going on with you, blah, 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 this, are you really a level 3? And it's just antagonizing the hell out of him. And you can kind of tell, like, Dix has this whole soliloquy later, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, where he's like, explaining to Belle, like, he's like, look, our family, our bloodline, we're cursed, man. All we can think about is extending this dungeon, making this dungeon deeper, completing, quote unquote, the dungeon. We're literally cursed ourselves. And he's like, I tried everything to rid myself of this curse. And he's like, nothing happened. And I tried being a legitimate adventurer. I tried this, I tried that. And then one day I was basically torturing, because he straight up was, he was torturing a monster, and it begged for forgiveness. And this is how like sick this dude is. Like, he's just like stab, 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 and it begs for its life. And he's like, oh, well, what if I do this? What if I do that? What if I do this? Like, this dude's got problems. Like, mad problems. He is not well. So he even makes these arguments. He's like, oh, what's the difference between humans and monsters? You know, they're monsters, we're humans. I would argue this dude's way more monster than any of the Xenos ever. I mean, this dude is Anyway, he is not a savory fellow. Calm. It's cool. We'll make it through this. So, he's like, at one point in the middle of their fight, like he does all this stuff, And he's like, hey, Belle. Like, after beating him up a little bit, he's like, come check this out. Just come with me. Come on. And leads him down a corridor. And he's like, hey, remember the little dragon girl that you had the thing for? Yeah, check this out. And there she is, like, basically crucified. And, like, on the ground, like, only lit by this one lamp. And he's like, what happens if I remove the gem on her head and just snatches that beast? And I thought when he first said this, like, Belle was going to intervene. No, he, like, snatches that beast and just without hesitation tears it out. And it's one of the most brutal, gut-wrenching things I think I've ever seen in this show. Like, he rips this thing out, and it's, like, attached by, like, nerves and tendons and things like that. Like, it is brutal. Absolutely brutal. And kind of predictably, she instantly starts transforming. And she goes into the full form, the full like dragon girl form. You know, gets the legs just become the little snake tail, and the other wing grows out, and she just becomes huge and feral. And he's just enjoying it. He's like, oh man, she seems cool now. Let's hang out. Let's, take her out, have a beer, whatever, Like, he's, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but, just being the worst possible, I won't even call him human. He's no longer human at this point. He's transcended humanity. He now is a monster himself. Like, it is awful, this whole thing going down. And, basically, Belle backs up in the other room, and Belle is, like, trying to get her to pay attention. He's like, it's me, it's Belle, and she just keeps, she'll smack him with the tail. And every time, it's me, it's Belle. And this goes on for a minute, and we do finally cut away to level 18, where you find out basically what happened. The entire Ganesha familia is just laid out. Like, they even mentioned, someone mentions later on in the episode, I think it was Ross, mentions that no one was killed necessarily that they're aware of, but everyone is laid out. And, you see Aisha's laid out, Shakti clearly was laid out before, Asfi is, like, up against a tree, like, everybody is down. And that's kind of when you see it, it's Ryu. Ryu is the last stand. And she's holding her own, but in the end, the big Minotaur thing just wipes her out. And he's about to make the killing blow, and you're kind of like this howl off in the distance. And he's just like, sheathes his axe and then walks off. And yeah. Wow. We still haven't learned anything about him. Obviously, we've seen it in the beginning. I think a lot of us have our speculations, but we still know nothing. Nothing about this dude. So, clearly they're building him up. He's going to be something very special here coming later on, but we'll see how this goes down. Now, back to the dungeon. Back to the main event, because you've got Belle on one hand, who's trying to get Winnie to, like, basically, hey, it's me, and she smack him against the wall. Hey, it's me, knock him into a pillar. And this just goes on and on and on. And finally, she, like, reaches down and she snatches him. And you can see, like, they even make a good point of, like, drawing the nails so they're back to the main length. And they draw her a little bit. Like, clearly she is out of her mind. Like, basically all the stuff that made her Xenos is now gone. And she snatches him up, and he's just like, says it one more time, he's like, can't you understand? It's me. And then she's just like, like mutters Belle, and then starts to, like, howl and lose her mind. And this whole time, Dix is just antagonizing Belle. He's like, come on, it's just a monster. And they have this whole back and forth. And while she's flipping out, Dix just basically is like, all right, you're boring me now. And then goes in to make the killing blow on Belle. And that's when you see he's attacked from behind. And their whole back and forth, basically everything that's been going on here, Lead has somehow broken free of the curse. Or mostly, not completely, but he's fighting the curse. And now it's him and Belle versus Dix. Now remember, we said Bell is a level 5. We don't know how strong. I think they say in the light novels how strong he is, but we know that unquestionably Lead is stronger than Bell. Well, that point, I think Dix has kind of accepted the fact that, this ain't happening. And as they're going on, Bell does the Argonaut punch and just dates him, bam, right into a wall. I mean, it's a brutal shot, man. Punches him in the heart. And dude just goes flying back like this, smacks the wall, everything crumbles, and the curse is lifted. Everyone in the room is released. And all these things are just start happening one by one. Like, the Zenos start taking back control of the room. People are, like even Fells is, like, knocking people away. Like, no, you're not interfering. No, this ain't happening. And as Dix is getting ready to make his escape, he curses Winnie. He uses his last ounce of strength. He curses Winnie, and he's like, all you're going to see is Bell for the rest of your existence. And then opens up a door and is like, that's the door to the ceiling. That's going out to the mainland. Here's the gem, and just chucks it basically off a cliff. Which, of course, Bell, without thinking, jumps out there and, like, is able to snatch it, but then Lita's like, nope, you ain't dying today, and then pulls him back up. But at that point, Dix has disappeared. And probably one of my favorite parts of this episode, I can't remember the dude's name. They mentioned his name earlier, but the big burly dude that carries the greatsword. Gross comes down and just like, bam, snatches half of his face right off. Brutal. This whole episode was just absolutely brutal. But now you can kind of see where this is all going. Lead and Gross have this talk back and forth. They're like, don't you trust the humans now? Look, they're helping us. And he's like, I don't know about trust, but we'll see. And of course, Winnie's she's going up to the mainland. She's going up to the top. She's going to the street level in Arario. And Belle's chasing after her. And the next thing you see is pretty much the street view. And there's people just running. They're just going wherever they can. And they're just leaving. And, they're screaming. And the Hestia Familia happens to be there. And that's when you see it. Winnie's up there, and she's just losing it. Now, she's saying Bell, 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 and she's, like, basically, you could tell they even show it. She's cursed. She's basically, like, seeing him everywhere, and she's just losing her mind. And he comes up to the base of the ground level, and that's when you spot him. Bam. Of course, the Loki Familia is there. We knew this was going to happen. We had the spoilers, so to speak, in the opening. There's Eyes, there's Finn, there's the Amazons. There's pretty much everybody that's important in the Loki Familia chilling right there. It's like, okay. And it's interesting, too, to note, because they even mention, they're like, that one doesn't have a gem in its head. So at some point, I'm guessing Uranus has messaged them and been like, hey, keep an eye out for the streets. We could have this, that, or the other thing. Look for a gem in the forehead. So, like, clearly he's, and we know he's more or less still omniscient. He's got eyes everywhere. But the Loki Familia even says, that one doesn't have a gem in her head. You can kill her. We can kill her. It's all good. And for probably the next 5 minutes of the episode is literally you just see the internal struggle with Bell. He's like, because he knows that he's between a rock and a hard place. He either protects Winnie or she's going to die. If he protects her, he is officially making an enemy of the Loki Familia. And of course it's Bell. You know what he's going to do. The face says it all. It's this slow motion thing. He just saunters out in front of her, spreads his arms, and he's got the knife in one hand. And they don't show it. I don't believe they show it. But in the other hand, he should still have the gem. He should at some point still have the gem on him. So obviously that, he can do something at some point, but nobody really knows. Like, it's literally just, we as the audience are aware, but obviously the Loki Familia has no idea. They have no clue what's going on. To them, it's a monster. And now he's protecting the monster. And they even have this scene with Ikelos, who's still up on top of his little crow's nest or whatever with Hermes, and is just having a grand time. He's like, I haven't seen a fool like this in ages. This is great. This is hilarious. Like, he's having the time of his life. And over here, Bell is now making an enemy of the Loki family. He's, Eyes, who he admires probably more than anybody else in the world, he is now making an enemy of. And that's just, I think the gravity of that alone really, really made this episode. Those last few shots, just even the whole last scene, just really, to me, made the episode. I am ecstatic and hyped for episode 8, and I hope you are too. If you are, once again in the comments section, hashtag EP8Hype. See who we can get to do that. For now, I am probably going to go rewatch this episode again. Catch up with the light novels and all that stuff. Because this is getting really, really, really good. Guys, really good. So that's going to be the video for me. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Were you guys hyped for it? I'll be back at you guys next week with another episode review. And I can't come soon enough, honestly.